Up until the time your party does get elected, is it possible till then that you start developing policies and hold public demonstrations and to try to get the Parliament's attention and their support?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I think that in some sense we are already doing that, perhaps not in a very big way. But our policies, we of course do have a set of policies. Those need to be refined and developed and more detail put into them. And I think that what you're asking will automatically, see, the problem here is that if this had been a parliament of people who were concerned about the country, who understood the problems of the country, who had the ability to understand, then it may have made some sense in trying to, lay these policies out before them, or having civil society demonstrations, arguing that these policies be implemented or these people change their ways. But the sad problem is that the people who sit in Parliament don't care and don't understand. So, I think it's perhaps a waste of effort to try and convince them. It's perhaps better that instead of trying to, if we have resources and time, it's better perhaps to put those resources and time to developing the party and developing what we need to do, rather than use that time and resources to try and convince people who are frankly unconvincible, because they don't understand. So I think it's probably a waste of time.
Okay. If Mustaqbil Pakistan comes into power in Pakistan, will it be possible? Will it possibly impose strict Islamic laws, just like Saudi Arabia and Iran?
No, the short answer is no. For one thing, we are not a religious party. We are not in the business of imposing one religion over the other. As a government, as a Pakistani political party, set up under the laws of the land, we are obliged to uphold the Constitution of Pakistan. And whatever that Constitution has to say, we will implement. That's it. We are not in the business of telling people what their religion should be and what they should or should not do. So that's not the case at all.
Okay. There's a very large majority of people who are educated, who watch television, who are aware, but yet they don't go out and vote. How would you concentrate on that sort of silent majority?
Well, let me just answer the first part first, which is they don't go out and vote, and or they're not interested in the political process, and I don't know. There could be several reasons for that. One has to understand why they're not in it before you attempt to answer the question, what are you going to do about that? You have to try and understand why they're not in it. And there could be several reasons. One, which is not hard to understand, is that it's potentially dangerous in Pakistan to try and go cast a vote, because there are a lot of arms around, there's violence. It's not unheard of shots being fired at polling stations. So one has to work with whoever the authorities that conduct the election are to ensure that polling places are places that are free of weapons, that are free of any kind of coercive tactics, that people are absolutely free, that voting is private, that a whole set of measures to just improve the polling process, because it's, from what I've heard, it's absolutely egregious now. You go out and there are crowds and people are sort of shoving and pushing, and there's violence and people are fighting. Now that whole culture has to be changed. How it's done, how it will be done, is hard to answer, because unfortunately, if the same parties are in power when the election is held, they have this habit of using the power of the state to manipulate polls or to manipulate the environment around these polling stations. My feeling is that we should request that a neutral party conduct the polls. And I don't know who that neutral party will be, but maybe it's a good idea. Right now this would probably be an extra constitutional measure, but it's something that needs to be discussed, is that the existing government step aside a few weeks before the poll, and you have a caretaker government of some kind that comes in and ensures a neutral poll. People who are there can be a process established to select a caretaker government, perhaps for 30 days, perhaps for something like this, who come in and whose sole objective is to conduct a fair, clean poll. Because it's very important that this happen so that people can genuinely express their, can vote without fear.
That's a very ideal scenario.
Yes, it is ideal.
It has never been done in Pakistan.
I think it happened once when, if you remember, in Qureshi, when he became, I think there was some kind of
Caretaker.
There was a caretaker government. It was done, but you're right. It's ideal. It's extra constitutional. There's no provision, and it's potentially dangerous because you sort of interfere with the constitution a little. But sometimes, if things have gone so far awry as they have now, if parties are so corrupt and so partial and so bent on holding on to power, that they will resort to means that are in any case extra constitutional. Maybe to get the process rolling in the right direction, a sort of an unusual measure like this is possibly justified. But how it will work, who will do it, these are details that I don't know what to do about. But one cannot count on it. One has to plan, assuming that the process continues like it is. So we have to see. Now, this is in the context of why the literate part of society does not take a more active role in politics. And I think the reason for that, aside from this, is that politics is just as we talked about earlier, it's just a very dirty game, and people who are professionals and who are literate just don't want to get involved. And I think that problem will address itself automatically if we, as we come out more into the public and show that we are really doing a different kind of politics.
Why should everyone have an equal vote?
Yeah, that's also an interesting question. And you mean, why should everyone have an equal vote? Meaning, why should an educated person vote,
his vote be the same
as someone who's illiterate?
Yeah,
I think that the issue has to do, at some basic level, the issue of a vote. When you vote for someone, I think you're voting for a person. All said and done, you're voting for a person, and I think all humans have a certain ability, an intrinsic ability, to judge people, to judge whether someone who is speaking or talking or saying something is genuine or not. I think that's a basic human quality. And I think that quality exists regardless of the level of education of someone. So I think what has to be done here is that you have to differentiate or make a distinction between people who are, between intelligence and education. I think the absence of education does not necessarily mean an absence of intelligence or of these basic human abilities to tell people, to tell good from bad. I mean, that is a basic part of human ability. So I don't think it's necessary that people who are possible. I don't think there's any evidence, let's put it this way if one can, that someone who is a PhD is necessarily a better judge of human character than someone who's a guard at someone's house. So I don't see why their vote then should be different, why their why the weighting they get in any votes that are cast should be different.